Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. So today I'm going to talk about a few things going on in the sports world. I'm going to cover a bunch of different sports, nothing in particular today. Past videos it's mostly been football, baseball, and whatnot. So there's a lot going on in the world of sports within the past few days, not even the past week really. So I guess the biggest thing to really talk about is what's happening in NASCAR right now. I really didn't imagine myself ever really talking about NASCAR very much. I mean, at all really in my life, but especially on this channel. So the thing that's going on is one of the I'm not 100% sure he's either the only or one of the few African American drivers in NASCAR, Bubba Wallace. He obviously, he's taken a stand. Black Lives Matter. He's seen wearing the T-shirt at races, at the NASCAR races. And over the weekend, there was a noose found in his garage, I believe. Like it was just on his property somewhere, placed in his property. Basically as a warning. When I first heard it, I thought this was so someone tried hanging themselves, because I didn't know right away what the context was, because I just don't follow NASCAR. Like I didn't know really who Bubba Wallace really was. I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't know who he was. I thought it was a matter of someone trying to take their own life, which is obviously never a good thing. It's never okay to do. But this was actually ended up being a race crime, for lack of a better term. That's probably the best way to put it. It was a race crime. He's standing up for what he believes in, and as a result, he's being attacked for it. That was a threat. That's a threat being made on his life, basically, because obviously everyone knows, if you've at least paid attention to history, the KKK and back in the day, they used to hang African Americans from trees with the noose. So that being placed on his property as a threat, it's pretty disturbing, in my opinion. It's showing that we still have a really long way to go, and that these riots and protests aren't, they shouldn't, at the very least the protests shouldn't be stopping. So I don't want to talk about this too much. I covered a lot of it in my last video. If you haven't watched that, it's definitely easily the most important video I've done yet. So please take a look at that if you ever get the chance. But I guess my closing statement is, it's NASCAR, and I mean, I'm an athlete. There are sports I don't like. I mean, this is just so deeply rooted, I feel like, in NASCAR. Like, if you ever watch a race, which I haven't in its full, but I've, when I'm flipping through the channels, it's one of those things that just happens to be on. You can see Confederate flags. And, like, I guess there was, like, a big protest because of everything that just happened with Bubba Wallace, like, on a NASCAR track. And like, there were counter protesters with just like a ton of Confederate flags. So it's obvious. I mean, it's a southern sport, if you want to call it a sport. It's not really a sport to me. I guess if you've ever gone 100 miles per hour or more in your car on the highway or something, then you're considered an athlete. That means I'm considered an athlete. That means some of my friends are considered athletes. We could be NASCAR drivers. That's how I take NASCAR in my opinion. It's driving cars really fast. Cool. So there's that. But it's just the racism. It's mostly a deep South attraction. That's just what it is. So it's not surprising to me to see the reaction, to see the racism from NASCAR fans. I know not everyone is. Not all NASCAR fans are, and there's fans in the north too, northern states. But if we're being completely honest here, which I like to be, what I just said is true. It's southern sport activity. Hit the mic there, sorry. And there's deeply rooted racism in it. So we're gonna move along now. I think a little over 6 minutes of talking about that is enough. There's other things going on in sports too. They were happening a couple days beforehand when all this started blowing up. But one thing is the coronavirus making a comeback in Florida. I know a lot of people think coronavirus is over. I know a lot of people have been saying, the protests show that people don't really care about anymore. It's still here. It hasn't gone anywhere. That's why in Massachusetts we're opening up so slowly. We just delayed phase 3 for another week at least to see how this second part of phase 2 goes. Which just started today on Monday, June 22nd. So in Florida, they pretty much completely reopened, and it's just that's looking like it was a really poor idea. I know other states did that also. Some parts, or I think Arizona's starting to get hit. This is in the sports world at the very least. Some of the Dallas Cowboys and Houston Texans players have gotten coronavirus, including Zeke Elliott, the running back for the Dallas Cowboys. But Florida they're getting rocked right now with some cases, especially in athletes. There's some Philadelphia Phillies. I think it was 5 players and 3 training staff members. So it's 8 people total in that organization. They had to shut down their facility in Clearwater, Florida. Some Toronto Blue Jays staff members, they got affected. And along with all of them, there's a couple players in the NFL. Aside from Dallas and Houston, and in places like Arizona and other parts of Florida. I think a couple of Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Tom Brady got out of there because he's probably seeing what's happening. Tampa Bay Lightning in the NHL, some of their players. So pretty much every sport has had players affected. It looks like really besides MLS and the NBA, which are, MLS is back, unless I'm mistaken, and NBA is coming back. Their return is supposed to be imminent at the end of next month, the end of July. I think July 30th now. So seeing all this going on it's not good. It's not a good sign. If these players are just at their training facilities and they're getting it, they're contracting coronavirus, and obviously there's some cases where people are just starting to now get tested, so it's showing up in these newer tests because more tests are now available as the months and weeks, days go on. But if they're getting it now, that means they have it now. It doesn't mean they had it 2 months ago and Now it's gone. If they're coming back positive for it, that means they have it right now. So obviously it wasn't a good idea by Florida to open up right away. Pretty classic Florida there. But yeah, I'm hoping the NBA can come back, because if they don't, it's gonna be a problem. A lot of people want sports back. The NBA is one of the 4 major sports, so the first ones that are supposed to be coming back. And this also isn't a good sign for the other sports. MLB is obviously having way more issues than players and training staff members contracting coronavirus, but they just can't figure it out. The players, MLB players and the owners, they can't reach an agreement on the amount of games, because obviously they're not going to play a full season. It's just not going to happen. It never was going to happen. And now I don't even know if they're going to play at all. They're trying to do like 50 games. I've seen 70 games, but the owners want the players to take less, which is understandable for at least this season. The owners want the players to take less money because they're going to be playing less games. And a lot of people were on the players because of the comments that they were making about this beforehand, when it all really first started. And reasonably so. Some of the things that they were saying weren't right. Like Blake Snell, Charlie Blackmon, like some guys just weren't saying the right things. But now, as the time has gone on, at least for me, I'm starting to see that, like, it's not just the players, it's the owners too. Because if they really wanted their money, because I'm hearing some owners are ready to just not come back at all. Like, they're okay with it, and they're rich, so what's it to them? They can go without an MLB season. A lot of people are worse off through this whole thing, this pandemic, and this year in general. So it would have been nice. They had the opportunity. It's really sad because they had the opportunity to come back first and set a precedent. Throughout sports, because it's baseball. I love baseball, but I get it. It's not really. There's maybe contact like 2% of the time between players. When someone's on the base that you're covering, your first, second, or third base, and someone's on the base, someone's sliding home. You can't slam into the catcher anymore. You don't really get close to anyone, especially if they're on the other team. It's really only your own team, and even then, you're in the outfield. You're like 20 feet away, pretty much, from each outfielder. Like, they're so far away from each other in baseball on the field that it made perfect sense for them to be the first ones back, especially because they hadn't even started their season yet. There's less complication. The other sports were nearing the end of their seasons, pretty much, like the NBA and the NHL, but that just makes it a little more difficult because they have to figure out, they're losing games. Like, obviously the NBA's you've already seen what they've decided to do. They're going to play 8 games, and then it's time for the playoffs. But MLB could have just gone from the start. Everyone was starting with no wins, no losses on their records. It would have been easy, and these people just can't figure it out. The owners, all they have to do is say, okay, you're going to take less this year, and we're going to give it to you throughout the rest of your contract. Take away a certain percentage and add it on next year, the year after, because, obviously some of these guys shouldn't be getting paid what they're getting paid in general, because MLB doesn't have a salary cap, so the numbers are outrageous. But it's so easy, and they just want to make it more difficult than it has to be. I love baseball, and it hurts to see that. I'm a huge baseball fan. It's probably my favorite sport since day one, and they're ruining it right now. So at this point, who knows? Who cares if they come back? It would be great if they did, but if they don't, I don't know if a lot of people really care. Oh, by the way, I'm sorry. I got the fans on. I got the AC on, so if that's... I don't know if it's catching in the microphone, but if it is, sorry about that. I don't think it would be too loud, but it's really hot now, so it needs to be done. So moving on. Yeah, so the NBA, we need them to come back. We really do. Sports fans, the economy too, honestly. Like, they need to come back. We really need them to. And if they don't, I understand. If they end up not coming back, it makes perfect sense. We're lucky none of their players, as far as we know, in recent weeks or this past weekend, have contracted coronavirus. Because if they did, there would be a lot. I feel like there would be a lot more problems. Things wouldn't be going very well right now. The likelihood that they come back, I don't know. It's going to be tough, but it would be great if they could. And if they don't, we should all understand and realize that if they don't come back, then this is a much bigger problem than we initially thought, and it's not going away. Now, talking about the NFL, that's another problem because some of their players have gotten it recently. And obviously, we're still a couple months away for them to come back. A little over 2 months. They're early September. So preseason's like not going to happen. I don't even know if it's been announced yet. I'm pretty sure it has, and I probably missed it. But the preseason's not going to happen. It shouldn't. So there's that. And the regular season, they're not going to have fans. Like, they really shouldn't. I know they're going to lose a lot of money, like a ton of money. I think I saw it was like $3 billion across the NFL if they don't have fans all season, and that's so much money. But it's so much better for them to at least keep their product on the field, because if they do have fans and people start getting sick, including their players, there's going to be a lot of problems, and they're probably going to have to like shut the season down, and then they're going to lose way more money than $3 billion. Like, if there's no season at all, losing $3 billion is going to look like pocket change to these guys. If there's no football played whatsoever, with like the TV deals and everything else, advertisements and all that. So maybe if there are fans, it's like the family members of the players, and they're spread out throughout each stadium. I don't know how they would get to each game. They'd find a way, but it's just not looking good for fans in the NFL this year. And I'm all for it. I want football to happen. Like, I really do. I love fantasy football. I'm going to be making fantasy football videos soon, unless like something drastic happens with the NFL where they're just like, yeah, never mind. 2 months ahead of time, we're just canceling the season. Like, in coming videos, I want to do fantasy talk. That's like my number one thing. And when it's fantasy football season, I can't wait to do more videos on this channel. So that's something that's huge for me too, personally. And my friends as well, and a lot of people that do fantasy football. So, coronavirus is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. It might not be as big as it was when it first started, or in April, or in early May, or whatever, but it's still here. So we shouldn't just be like, yeah, it's gone, let's start celebrating, coronavirus is gone. No. It's not gonna, it's here forever. It's here forever. It's been created, and now it's here. Just like everything else, all the other diseases and viruses and everything like that. So the scale will progressively go down, hopefully. But we can't act like it's just gone forever. So keep that in mind. Keep everything that I've said in this video in mind. Like, we really have to start thinking about some things if you're a sports fan. NASCAR do better, MLB do better, everyone else do better. I guess that's the message for this video overall. We all need to do better. And yeah, so thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next video. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it, and my other videos. Please get those likes up. Subscribe if you enjoy them too. Get the subscribers up. I think we're almost at 100. If we haven't reached 100 yet, we're almost there, which is amazing. Thank you guys for the support so far. I really appreciate it. We got a nice amount of views on my last video for Black Lives Matter, which was great. I really wanted people to see that message, and I'm glad people were interested in it. So thanks again, and again, I'll see you next time.